Hello there, and welcome to the Impact Zone podcast. We're back again to talk more TNA wrestling shenanigans. There's always some shenanigans to talk about here with TNA. And the other day, I was coming on here. Maybe a little while ago. I can't remember when I actually posted this specific video. But I came on here to discuss like why it feels like there is an attack going on against TNA from like the AEW toxic fan base or what have you. And I do feel like they're scared. They're honestly scared of competition. That's like some people frame it as saying, well, this is just the monopoly or whatever else of WWE. Like WWE is going to have virtually a monopoly on this business anyway, whichever way you slice it. So they're like right now there is no real other choice but to kind of, if TNA is going to work with WWE, that's fine, I think, as long as it leads away from that later on. They become their own standout thing, and perhaps they'll work together here and there down the road or whatever else it is. But you should never not be open for business. That's the thing. You should never say, we're going to close our doors to these people or to whoever, especially WWE, who is the biggest thing in wrestling and can elevate, anything that you're doing. It's like, well, there is that publicity there, I think a lot of people said, like, with AAA, while El Patron was, like, the champion, or while he was there, that it was kind of, like, one of the worst promotions in the world, like, and, Conan booking known prick Alberto Del Patron, and known abuser El Patron, and whatnot, and all of that sort of stuff. While, like, some of the things, like, I do agree with what Conan has to say is and a lot of people, like, same thing. It's like, I can agree or disagree with some of the things that some of these people say, Meltzer, Jim Cornette, etc. I've said these things before, but I always can disagree with them as well. It's not just we're all happy family and we're all going to agree on absolutely everything. And I think it's fine to disagree and have different opinions. And some people's opinions are not well-founded or not well-rounded, I think. And their opinion of, perhaps it could be, absolutely. But again, like, you need more competition. That's, in my opinion, the be-all and end-all. If you don't have TNA being on par with AEW, then when will AEW ever get better? It will never get better because they're too focused on themselves and don't think, oh shit, we could even be being beaten by TNA. We're already being beaten by WWE. Shit, now we're also losing our market share to TNA. If they find themselves in that position, then they'll have to pull their, thumb out of their ass and actually, go, or they'll just fucking fall apart. I don't know, but that's the options that they'll have to have in front of themselves. They'll have to face the facts or face that situation of saying, hey, this is where we're at and we're not doing too well. And even TNA is like on par with us and starting to do better than us and all of this. It doesn't mean that TNA needs to be on Wednesday to compete with AEW. That doesn't need to happen. Though if it happens, fine, whatever. And again, somebody was saying this before about, TNA can't compete with AEW or whatever. Absolutely, I think they can if they're on the right network. And the thing is, like, WWE was behind WCW for like 83 weeks, and then WCW was behind WWE for like 200 something weeks. And TNA, that's been around for 20, you're telling me that TNA, the company that's been around for 23 years and has been behind for those 23s, especially for the last 6 while AEW's been in business, has been in behind AEW for the last 6 years, is going to fold after 1 or 2 more years of still being behind? You're kidding me. Serious? No way. Like, they will take the fact that they're still behind and go, right, well, we need to be better. We need to find what it is or find a way to overcome AEW. And until they do that, they will keep fighting. And AEW will have to see TNA on the rise behind them and saying, oh shit, they suddenly got, another 1,000 or another 10,000 or another whatever, arena, or another so many thousand in viewership, or whatever it was. It will just make everything better if TNA is on that same level of streaming and on that same level of network, because so many more people will be able to access the channel, able to access the product, and it will give wrestling fans options. And in the end of the day, it will make everyone more money and give more opportunities to more wrestlers. Because if you're going to stay stagnant, then you're going to fail. That's what happens. You can't stay stagnant, but you have to realize how you can, work people in the crowd. You can't just be like what WCW used to do, where there was no real, order and process to anything, and no real, ebb and flow to things, or whatever, and you didn't even know what was going on half the time. Even the same thing, WWE had those problems too sometimes, but still, they weren't as pronounced, seemingly, at least. So, you've got to find that space of saying, we're not just here to have 500 super kicks and 500 dives and 500 destroyers to pop Dave Meltzer or whatever. You have to have those real characters that people are invested in, who have good to great matches that reflect their story, and is more about emotional storytelling than, as I said, popping Dave Meltzer. It's not like, if you have a 5-star match, all cool, but that 5-star match should be part of your narrative, not just, oh, we went out to have a 5-star match and pop Dave Meltzer. You shouldn't care about trying to do that too hard. You should be caring about what your craft is, selling, and telling that emotional story. What is your emotional story? Don't forget that, because that is where, I'm invested. If you, I said this with Indy a little while back, she stopped emotionally selling for me, and it felt like, oh, okay, I've lost connection to you and to what you're trying to tell me in the ring. So now I'm no longer invested. So you need to win me back by having those emotions and making it feel real. Just because you're going through the motions doesn't mean that I'm going to support you. You've got to show me that you are taking me through those emotions. That is what I care about as a wrestling fan. I care about the health of the wrestling landscape as a whole, not just, I like TNA, and I've been a TNA guy for a long time, but I would find things to like in AEW. Definitely. I find things to like in WWE. I find things to like in the indies sometimes when I get the chance to see something or whatever else it is. But I don't really go out of my way to see a lot of that, because it is quite hard to actually, watch a lot of that, because it is quite hard to find, these things, because they don't have a TV deal like TNA or like AEW or whatever. And even so with WWE and AEW, it's like, well, there's only so many hours in the week, so I can't dedicate that much time to watching all of these shows. So I will dedicate myself to the show that I have been hooked to, because that is what I know, and that's what I like. I want to see not just great wrestling, I want to see, characters. I think that TNA has a lot more of that sort of, thing going on, where it's like, you feel like you can see characters. You don't just see, matches or whatever, like, we've talked about, like, each time TNA stars have been on NXT, it has shifted the needle. You've got to have this appeal to yourself. You've got to be able to appeal to that mass audience. Joe Hendry appeals to that mass audience. That's why he moves the needle. Mike Santana can appeal to that mass audience. That's why he moves the needle. That's why these people, like, when they go over there, it's not just, they're TNA guys, so what? Who cares? It's, oh my god, it's Joe Hendry, he's really cool, and he's got the theme music or whatever else it is, and he's got the meme and whatever else it is, and he's a really cool character and whatnot. And but people don't really think about the wrestling or whatever else that much. Maybe they will talk about it or whatever, but they don't really care that much. Here comes Mike Santana, he's really cool, he's this Barriqua badass guy. That's how you can find connection to this person, even if you've never seen them before. You can see who they are. That's, like, written on them, effectively. You can see it by the way they dress, by the way they walk, by the way they talk, and by the way they conduct themselves. It's a vibe that you immediately kind of get from them. You don't just have to know who they are to figure out who they are, because it's basically plastered all over them by being that character to their core. It's not just they're playing a character. It's not just like we found some guy called Joe Hendry and we told him, hey, go out there and play this, gimmick or whatever it is, or Santana or whoever else it is to go out there and play this gimmick. No, that's the gimmick that they've had. That's the gimmick that they've worked on, or that's the persona that they've, tried to put out there for themselves as who they are. Maybe turned up to 11 or whatever, but still, that's who they are, So, and that is what people are going to connect with most. Their story, who they are. And then when they see them have a great match, they're going to go ahead and enjoy it, because they actually have some investment in them, not just coming to see them going, oh, I'm going to slap my leg 500 times or whatever it is, to try to have a great Tokyo Dome match or whatever it is, for Dave Meltzer. I'm not just here for that. I'm here to work and get over. So again, people who are, out there saying, oh, TNA this and TNA that and whatever, they suck and da-da-da-da, and coming after it, it's like, you guys are scared of competition. You're very, like, it's crazy that you're so happy to lose to WWE, but you're like, oh no, we can't have TNA beating us too. That's what you're afraid of, I think, or some of these people are afraid of. People are saying, oh, it's to crush the alternative. TNA is an alternative to WWE. Even if they're working with WWE, they're still an alternative to WWE because they're not owned by WWE. They're just working with them. And yet some of these people are saying, oh, AEW should work with WWE, while saying, oh, no, they're the competition or whatever, and all this sort of stuff. Make up your mind. What do you want? Yet you've got all these ex-WWE guys, which is most of your roster there. And it's like, yeah, like, again, like, why can't people enjoy a bit of both or a bit of everything, Like, fuck's sake. And why can't there be more diversity in the wrestling business, especially in the major leagues of wrestling? If they're, like, if TNA is a proper destination for people, especially, like, if they have that working relationship with WWE, a lot of people will, like, it's always going to be seen as a pathway to a WWE. But with that, connection, it makes it a little bit easier or whatever for some of those people to do that, or to transition to TNA. And I know no one thinks about saying, oh, well, I'll be in, it's my idea to go to TNA in 3 years or 5 years or whatever it is, or that's my goal or whatever it is. But you find yourself there and you go, oh, well, this is where I'm at and this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to try to be the best within what I'm trying to do. So again, I don't know, guys. It's just crazy, some of this stuff. So calm the hell down, enjoy the wrestling, and let wrestling be more diverse. Like, even if, you think that, this is WWE or whatever else it is. To an extent, it is. But they're doing their own counter programming against AEW, and TNA doesn't really have a whole lot to do with that, really. They're just like, if you're going to use our talent and going to, pay for our talent or whatever else it is, or you're going to give us some talent or whatever else it is for us to pay up, to on our events or whatever else it is, that's what we're here for. We're here to promote ourselves, especially like this year, I think, like just trying to get that new network deal. I think like for the short term, absolutely great, because again, if you can get that short term buzz about yourself up to getting that new TV deal or that new streaming deal, and then you're on there for maybe another year while you're competing on that same plateau with NXT effectively in many ways, then you can go on and say, okay, now we've got to take the ball and run with it. Now WWE is off and doing whatever they're doing on another network, and now we've got to kill it. We've got to, show that we can be the best number 2 or close second, in the number 2 slot, and so is AEW. So it will really like almost usher in a new golden era in some ways for the business. It'll usher in like the streaming wars in some ways of TNA versus AEW, and yes, they'll be only fighting for the close second, but no one can fight for the number 1 slot. Realistically, it's just infeasible. WWE has such a dominance over the industry, there's no way anyone can do it. So, but if TNA and AEW are on a similar platform, at least like it will give more major options to everyone, as I sort of said. So, yeah, I don't see any negatives to it. I just think that the hostility and whatnot that are around some of this is just a bit much, and just so people need to calm a bit down. So I think it will all be positive. So yeah, I think that's where I'm at with that. So hopefully we can all come to chill and enjoy each other and enjoy the wrestling community. But there's always going to be toxic members, so we've got to, say, well, those are just toxic members or whatever else it is. So I understand that. That's fine. But if, the more mainstream or whatever, not mainstream, but the more casual people don't get that, then they're in a certain, more toxic element, I think. So that's at least where I'm at. We're not here for, to kill AEW, and I don't know what WWE is doing in that regard, but like that doesn't really concern me or concern us in many ways. That is competition in some ways for them to say, hey, let's shut this down or slow them down or, whatnot. That's their business, not ours, But they don't really need to do that. So that's where they're at, I guess. I don't know really what the goal is there in some regards, but it is what it is, and it don't have to endorse it, but, it is what it is. So they're going to do that. That's what businesses do. If AEW was smart or had the ability to do the same thing, they would. So the shoe would be on the other foot, obviously. But all these people are always hypocrites anyway, so whatever. You can't tell them anything, I guess. But yeah. Anyway, guys, hope you've enjoyed this one. Hope you are well, and hope you will join me again in another one.